Hello, BookTube. This is Alan. I've been seeing a lot of BookTube channels that was showing their best of 2019 reads, and I've been commenting on there, just like I used to do before I had a BookTube channel. I would make comments, but I wouldn't show the book. So I thought I'd show a portion of the books, about 7 books here, and I would show those and talk a little bit about them. So yeah, and before I get started, I want to show you this Christmas card I received. This is uh, from Russia. It's from someone I follow on Instagram. Sent me this Christmas card, and the inside looks like, and it's so beautiful. Just got this yesterday, which is it's interesting because it was Russian Orthodox Christmas, so it came in handy. All right, the first book is by Vintage Press, Richard Flannigan, and this is his book, The Narrow Road to the Deep North. It's a Booker Prize winner, and it came out, let's see, came out in 2013. And what this book is basically about Australian soldiers during World War II who were forced to build a road in Burma by the Japanese. And this is not your Bridge on the River Kwai type book where in a film where you have these 10 muscle guys with their perfect teeth and the perfect hair. This is not that. This is a gripping, savage, brutal account of what went on during during that time the Japanese captured these guys, these Australians, and forced them to work on the bridge, this road going to Burma. And it also tells you tells you the later part. Back in the at the end, it tells you what happened after they were liberated. It tells you not only the Australian side, but also the Japanese side. So it's a very good book, The Narrow Road to the Deep North by Richard Flannigan. The next book is a one that several people have read. I picked this up at the thrift store. Published by Windmill Books, Penguin Random House. Came out in 2016. And the premise is interesting. It's like it's easy. It's called The Gentleman in Moscow. And what the premise is to start with, you have this count who is in 1922. He is instead of taking him to prison, he's actually put into a hotel and said, "You're not supposed to leave. You don't leave here." But so it's very, simple. But Amor Towles, the writer, does a very good job in that he starts stripping away layers of the count, and he takes him from his hotel room where he used to stay and puts him up in the attic. That's one layer he just takes off. Another layer he takes off is told the staff not to tell the count, "Oh, Your Highness," or "Your Excellency." Don't address them by a title. So when you take a person that was a count and was given all this status, and you start layering that off, he soon becomes isolated. It's a very good book. It's very worthwhile reading. The next one is by by John Philip Santos, and this was put out by Penguin Books, and it came out in 1999, so I bought this at a thrift store. This is called Places Left Unfinished at the Time of the Creation. And what this deals is part memoir of his John Philip Santos' time of living in San Antonio and growing up, and his grandfather mysteriously dying in 1939, and John Philip Santos was trying to find out how his grandfather died. And in my book review of the book, and on Goodreads page, I said this, and I gave a quote at the top, said by G.K. Chesterton, which he says, "The things we remember are the things we forget." And John Philip Santos, in the book, looks back at things, events, lifestyles that have been forgotten, and lives that are wasted. And he talked about the muddy San Antonio River that always overflows and is now concrete in the tourist attraction, and how things that they remembered growing up they came from Mexico. His family came from Mexico. Grandparents came from Mexico, and then in Texas. And when it was part of Mexico, then all of a sudden they woke up one day and they're an American. And so it talks about their lifestyle and how the lifestyle is being diminished, being forgotten, to where now it's just a tourist attraction. You hear mariachi bands singing about the past. And John Philip Santos says, "What is life? A frenzy. What is life? An illusion. A shadow. And the greatest good is small, that life is a dream, and dreams are dreams. We are not interested in the past, nor in the things that are forgotten. For if we were interested in the things that are forgotten, we would see ourselves. Todo se acaba, todo se extermina." So that's Places Left Unfinished at the Time of Creation by John Philip Santos. This is a very short read. It's only 279 pages. The next book has been called The Greatest American Novel No One's Ever Read. This is Stoner by John Williams. This is a New York Review of Books, and it came out in, it was copyrighted in 1965 by John Williams. And I picked this up last year. And William Stoner is born in a poor dirt farm family in Missouri. And an agent comes by and says, "Oh, they're opening up a school. Why don't you go send your son?" And so the father tells his only child, William Stoner, to go get some education. So William Stoner goes to the college, just setting up, and starts taking agriculture classes, but his prerequisite, he has to take English classes. And he likes the English classes so much that he decided to change his major to English. And he then decides to stay at the college and work on his master's degree in English. And then he decides to teach and start teaching there at the college. So this is, as it says on the back, John Williams' luminous and deeply moving novel is a work of quite perfection, William Stone emerges from it not only as an archetypal American, but as an unlikely essential hero, standing like a figure in a painting by Edward Hopper in stark relief against an unforgiving world. And I saw on YouTube that they're going to make a movie about this. The next book is one I've shown before. Well, it has Steve Reddit tag. This is the boy who was raised as a dog by Dr. Bruce Perry. And what this book is just different case studies that Dr. Perry goes through and shows you how a child just doesn't bounce back, and a child also suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder. And this is very good. And the subtitle is What Traumatized Children Can Teach Us About Loss, Love, and Healing. These last two are biographies, and I got these last two at a library book sale. And I've always been heard of this woman. First biography is by a woman, about a woman. And I've heard about this woman before, a lot. When she passed away at age 102, the New York Times obituary column was over a page long. She is very influential in movies today. This is a biography of Leni Riefenstahl, and this is by Jurgen Trimborn. And this biography came out in 2007, and it was originally published in 2002 in Germany, and this is the American edition, first American edition. And Leni Riefenstahl started out as a ballet dancer. She broke her leg, then she became an actress, and then she wanted to be a director. She became a director, and it's on, you can see it on YouTube, the Triumph of the Will was actually her second movie she made. It won a prize in France. She got into Adolf Hitler's inner circle. This is a picture down here of Hitler and Leni Riefenstahl. Goebbels, she hated Goebbels, Joseph Goebbels. And so she did the Triumph of the Will. And she went to America and was cheered by the people of New York, but she was accepted by Walt Disney and Henry Ford. The film documentary Triumph of the Will, some of those scenes have been used in films like The Lion King, Star Wars, and Stormtroopers, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, and a couple of other films. The film directors at that time loved her work. The American film directors loved her work. Steven Spielberg loved her work and wanted to meet her. George Lucas loved her work. The people loved her films and her filmmaking and her direction because of something that wasn't seen. On Goodreads page, someone pointed out that she was a Nazi. Something wrong with her. Well, what if she was born in the United States? How far would she have gotten? She wouldn't have gotten very far. Not as a female, not as a female director. She did the sports, the 1936 Olympics that was held in Berlin. She did a documentary on that sporting event, and that piece was copied by several others who came after her. her downfall was the film. And that's the only thing that she was concerned about, was the film. She didn't care about anybody else. She didn't care about Hitler, Goebbels, or anybody. All she cared about was her film. The next biography, I have never read any of this author's works. And, but I read this biography of him. And this is extremely good. Another library book sale. This is Tolstoy, A Russian Life by Rosamund Bartlett. It's a very big thing. It's about 500 pages. With extensive notes, extensive list of illustrations. And it starts off in the flyleaf here. In November 1910, Count Lev Tolstoy died at a remote Russian station. At the time of his death, he was the most famous man in Russia, with a growing international following and more revered than the Tsar. Born in an aristocratic life, Tolstoy has spent his life rebelling against not only conventional ideas about literature and art, but also traditional education, family life, organized religion, and the state. Tolstoy, in this book, the author Rosamund Bartlett, the biographer, tells about how Tolstoy went to Germany and then over to England to study their education system, because Russia was using the same educational system that Germany was using. Well, Tolstoy didn't like it, and so Tolstoy changed the entire educational system. He also, and when he worked on his book, War and Peace, he actually was going to title it All Well That Ends Well. And he sent a manuscript of 30 pages to a Russian literary magazine. And that same literary magazine also, at the same time, published a work by Dostoevsky called Crime and Punishment. So this has a list of the family tree of Tolstoy. One of the interesting things that the biographer points out, because I had mentioned that Tolstoy was the most famous man in Russia. In 1905, Lenin called a halt to the revolution. They were going to have the revolution in 1905. But Lenin called a halt to it because Tolstoy was a pacifist. He was against war. And so they called a halt to the revolution and decided to postpone it for a while. This is the picture of Tolstoy and his brother. This is filled with this is Tolstoy's wife and sister. And later on, there's a famous Tolstoy, different pictures of Tolstoy. So it's an excellent biography. I highly recommend it. This is Tolstoy by Rosamund Bartlett. He has written several other biographies. Yeah, she wrote one on Wagner in Russia, one on Chekhov, Shostakovich, and a couple of others. So that's about 7 books here. And I thank you very much, and have a good day.